I have 120 colored pencils here. I won't mention the brand because it's not important. What matters is that the pencils are made of resin, not wood. Before starting, I'll cut them all to 5 centimeters in length, but first, I'll sharpen one end. To do this, I'll use a sharpener that I took out from an electric sharpener that broke down. Interestingly, this sharpener fits perfectly on my drill, making the sharpening process much easier. Of course, I won't throw away the scraps, they might be useful for future projects. When working on projects like this, it's always good to keep even the smallest bits, as they can come in handy later. The flower effect I'm aiming for doesn't always turn out perfectly. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's about a 50-50 chance. That's why I keep the best ones for future use. Now, I'll use a table saw to cut all the pencils to exactly 5 centimeters. This length is perfect for the pattern I want to create for this project. Additionally, it's an optimal size because it allows me to use the whole pencil without wasting any material. I've organized the pencils by color in a way that I think best suits my design. Using quick drying glue, I'll start assembling them into the pattern I came up with earlier. This is a time-consuming process, so I won't say much during it. I'll just let you watch how it all comes together. To achieve a perfect circle shape, I've prepared a laser cut template. Now, I can use it to create a mold from transparent plastic. I'll attach it to the base using hot glue and secure it with silicone. If you'd like to see how to do this step by step, you can find a link to the tutorial in the description of this video. I'll also add a link here in the top right corner of the screen. It's time for the epoxy resin. For the first layer, I'll pour 800 g of resin. It's crucial to use resin suitable for pouring up to 10 centimeters thick. This will prevent air bubbles from forming, as the resin will cure slowly without overheating. It's also important to mix it thoroughly. I do this manually for about 5 minutes per cup. After about 8 to 9 days, when the resin is fully cured, I sand the surface with fine grit sandpaper. Then, I thoroughly clean the surface with a cloth and compressed air to remove any dust and ensure a perfectly smooth base. I apply the laser cut template onto the surface, and then start attaching the numbers in the correct spots using quick drying glue. This helps achieve the correct layout and will make the design look great after pouring the next layer of resin. Next, I prepare 350 g of resin, which I mix thoroughly. Before pouring, I place it in a vacuum chamber to eliminate any air bubbles. After taking it out, I pour it slowly to avoid creating new bubbles during the process. After 24 hours, the resin is hardened, and I can remove it from the mold. Now it's time to sand it. I'll sand both sides because the surface and edges don't yet look as they should. To prepare for the final resin pour, I'll round the edges on both sides using a router table with a rounding bit. This ensures that the resin spreads evenly over the entire piece, sealing and protecting it fully. For the final layer, I'll pour about 120 g of resin. I mix it thoroughly and, as usual, place it in the vacuum chamber before pouring to remove any air bubbles. I pour the resin slowly, spreading it evenly over the entire piece with my gloved hand, making sure to cover the edges and sides thoroughly. In the next 24 hours, the resin hardens, and any excess resin that drips to the other side gets sanded down, starting with 80 grit sandpaper and finishing with 1000 grit. Then, I move on to wet sanding, starting with 2000 grit paper and finishing with 4000 grit. Finally, I use polishing paste to polish the entire surface thoroughly. In the center of the clock, I make an 8 mm hole and place the clock mechanism. To position it perfectly, I use a template attached with double-sided tape, which allows me to place the mechanism precisely so that it doesn't rotate within the body. Finally, I mount the mechanism by gently tightening it with a wrench and attaching the clock hands. All that's left is to insert a battery, and that's it. The clock is ready. It's transparent, and the numbers are made of resin mixed with a green fluorescent pigment that glows in the dark. What's interesting is that in the dark, only the numbers are visible, not the pencils. Personally, I really like this effect. What do you think about this project? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next video.